Welcome to the Peerless YouTube channel. I am Katie North, and today we are going to be doing the second class in our flower series. And today we're going to be doing my mom's favorite, which are poppies. And so right now I am in California, so the poppies have just bloomed and they're all over the hills and they're just gorgeous and rolling. So this one we're actually doing two paintings because I couldn't decide either to do like a hill full of poppies or the single version. So you guys know me now a little bit, and that I hate to watch just paint dry. It's one of like the most tedious things ever. You know, Peerless watercolors and any kind of watercolor in general is a faster kind of drying thing anyway, but I still am impatient and I want it to dry faster. So I usually end up working on two paintings at once or working on something else at the same time. So when I'm doing this tutorial, I am doing both at the same time. So you absolutely don't have to do both, but why not challenge yourself to do two? And you might surprise yourself that you like to do two at the same time as well, like I do, just because, you know, you're not sitting there bored waiting for the paint to dry. So I hope you enjoy. For your supplies, you'll be needing Peerless watercolor, watercolor brush and paper, masking fluid, double-sided tape, scissors, pencil, and a fine tip artist pen. And if you are new to Peerless, welcome. We are very happy to have you. What we like to do is make these little palettes. So each of the Peerless watercolors comes on their own individual sheet. So I like to cut a little square of my colors once I've chosen which ones I would like. And I make this travel palette. And so I'm just using scissors directly on my little sheet and then double-sided tape them to the extra piece of watercolor paper, and that becomes my palette. And it's always a good idea to swatch out your colors before you start painting, just because sometimes they look a little bit different when they're highly concentrated on their original Peerless sheets. And just to get a better idea, put a little swatch next to there, and now you're ready to start your painting. I didn't have a reference photo for this one. I did do a sketch, and you guys will be able to find that if you'd like to trace it and do it into the light box. But I kind of looked at a few different flowers and kind of just decided to do more of a simple version. So I am just sketching it onto my page now. I've noticed that most poppies have 4 petals, and then if they're doing like an unblossomed bloom, like that little bud, like the poppy bud, it looks like a really intense teardrop shape. And yeah, so there's pretty simple, not too much going on in the actual flowers. It also why I wanted to do 2 paintings at once for this one. So if you'd like to follow along with me or find your own version of a poppy, of a reference photo that you would like to do, totally understand. And yeah, so once we get this going, I will kind of explain what we're going to be doing in my Peerless watercolor journal. Okay, so now we are ready to paint our single poppies, and we are going to start with our first wash of the brilliant yellow on both flowers, and then while it is still wet, do the wet on wet technique with the chrome yellow and the red golden hair, kind of starting at the middle and feathering it down and kind of making a gradient between the lightest yellow at the top to orange and a little bit of the golden red at the bottom. Okay, so while you guys are working on this, I'm going to kind of give you a rundown of what we are going to be doing with the masking fluid. And for this second painting, looking at, I'll put a reference photo in like the corner. What I want to do is kind of show you like the field of depth, and kind of as you get further away, some of those flowers get out of focus. And then as you get closer, they're a little bit more defined. And I really wanted there to be a really stark contrast between the orange and the green. And I have been so into using the masking fluid lately that I just kind of decided that while this one was, our single poppies were drying, I'm just going to start on this other painting. So I've masked out the sides just with the watercolor tape, just to kind of make it a little bit prettier. And I'm literally just making kind of flower-shaped areas with the masking fluid. So when they're closer to the bottom of the page, they're bigger and they're gonna be more defined, and I'm gonna have an actual stem. And then as you get further and further away, I'm gonna make them closer and smaller flowers. And they're gonna be a little bit more, you know, they're not gonna look like exact flowers, but I do go over them with the artist pen to kind of give it more of like an illustrated look, and I think they turn out really pretty. But yeah, just kind of being a little bit more fluid and playful with it, and just not so precise. And you know, I mean, we're just letting this single flowers dry, so I wasn't trying to do anything too crazy. Like, I just wanted to give this idea, like, so smaller flowers in the background and middle ground a little bit bigger, and some, like, you know, some of the stems, and then when you get closer, just a few ones that you kind of have an idea what that shape is going to be like. Right, so I am using the grass green and mixed with a little bit of the chrome yellow just to kind of give it a little bit more muted tone, and wet on wet technique, just a little, you know, color variations in the green in the stem themselves, and doing all the stems and the leaves and the bud next to the flower. And that's just the first wash. So you'll add the details next, but just getting that first wash down, and then we will add a little bit more to our flowers. So once we are happy with our little bit of the variations in the wet on wet technique in our green and our first wash, we are going to set that painting aside and let it dry, and we are going to do the background of our poppy field. And so this one, we're going to get a complete wash top to bottom of the grass green, and then start layering in more. And if you would like to, at this time, also put like a dark green, and maybe even like, I mean, any of the greens that you have for Peerless, but it definitely fills up a lot of green. I think I do replace one of my green, yeah, I think I do replace it on my swatch. But yeah, I'm going through, I'm mixing some yellows in there, I'm mixing the green, I'm mixing a little bit of the, probably the chrome, and just trying to get like a lot of different kind of colors of green going in there, and then kind of feathering in the direction of the stems of all of the flowers while it's still wet, to give it those, like, you know, the idea that there's stems back there but they're out of focus, like, or like little grass, like grass tendril, you know, any kind of movement in the direction that the flowers are going in. And while it's still a little bit wet, so they're going to be a little bit softer. They're not going to be as intense and sharp of lines. So, and then let that one dry, and then we will be working on our other painting. So for our second wash, I am using the chrome yellow, and I'm kind of just doing little feathering motions, trying to give the idea like how soft the little veins are for the petals, but then going over where the petals overlap. So one of my favorite things about the poppies, and especially when I was looking at them outside, it's a little harder to see on the ones inside, but there's such like a translucent petal that when the sun hits it, you get like this, like, you know, when they're overlapping, you can see exactly where each of them are, and I thought it was so pretty. So I'm trying to kind of like get that middle piece where those two petals are overlapping. That's why I want that area to be so dark, is when the light is like, the sun is completely shining right down on it, they kind of like light up, and the little overlapping pieces are the really ones that stand out when I was looking at them. So that's why I decided to do it like that. And then the one that's still spiraled up a little bit tighter, I just bring in the kind of the orange and the red on the inside to kind of make that spiral. And then while that is drying, I come over to my poppy field and remove all of the masking fluid, and then start layering my first bunch of brilliant yellow and chrome yellow down on my flowers. And I'm doing the wet on wet technique too, so I wanted to get the variations of what, you know, when the sun was directly on them or if they're overlapping, and having those little variations in the orange and the yellow kind of feel like you get that a little bit more too, so. So now we are going to be doing our second wash on our green areas, and I do put an extra piece. I replaced my grass green just so it's nice and fresh, and I'm kind of filling in those stems that were with the masking fluid, and then I mix the grass green with the red golden hair to give a darker tone of a green and like more in shadow and more of a defined, and I'm making the same kind of shapes of those like extra leaves that come off our single one, and just kind of defining where all of those stems are in those flowers with the red and green mixed together. Okay, so now for our final wash of paint on our single flowers. I'm just kind of redoing the little edges of the green, and then that one little area where the petals overlap each other, I want to make sure it's like a nice solid chrome orange with a little bit of the red golden hair, just to kind of get that exactly where that petal is overlapping. And then I do like a very translucent, soft, kind of veiny look on the teardrop, the bud, and that kind of gives it kind of more of a spiral shape to it. And yeah, I think that one's pretty close to done. I get so excited about both paintings that I actually totally forget to do my white highlights, and I end up doing them later, but I don't actually think they're in any of my pictures. And the white highlights I feel like always make the petals look a little bit more clean, and I don't know, they just clean it up a little bit. So maybe I'll still add a picture of the poppies in there with the white highlight right at the end, because I think it does just kind of clean up each petal and define it a little bit better. But yeah, just kind of giving that last little wash to give a little bit of roundness. Definitely that one where the petals are overlapping, and then that spiral shape on the bud, which is also one of my favorite parts. And then back to our poppy field, I go through with an artist pen and just really kind of freestyle, free draw how I want the poppies to look like what I was looking at them when I was outside. And I feel like they have a really defined center, and you get a lot of those little dots and those speckles, and then they just kind of are, yeah, they're so pretty. I do 2 different sizes, if I can see where my sizes are. I don't know where they went. But I do 2 different sizes. So I'm outlining it in a thicker one, and then doing the outlines of the ones that are closer, and the little, branches and the buds. And then I go back with a smaller artist pen, and I kind of do some lines that show the shape of the petals. Yeah, the shape of the petals, so it kind of like directs your eyes in which way they go and which way they turn. And I feel like it just gives it a really cute illustrated look. And yeah, anyway, so that is my 2-for-1 tutorial. I hope you like it, and I hope it wasn't intimidating, and I hope it just shows that, working on 2 things at the same time is really fun. And you gotta be working the whole time, especially letting that one dry and creating a whole new thing. So I hope you enjoy. All right, so we're just doing the last little bit of details, and I wanted to show you what my completed painting looked like with the white highlights. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe and share with your friends, and we will see you next time.